America. Land of freedom, opportunity, and love affair with feet, inches, pounds, gallons, and Fahrenheit. In the world where nearly every country uses the metric system, the United States stands as one of the last holdouts. Why? Well, that's $1 million question. Or should I say, 1.6 million kilometer question. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most puzzling quirks of American life. Why the US hasn't adopted the metric system. From gallons to liters, feet versus meters, pounds versus kilograms, Fahrenheit versus Celsius, and even miles per hour versus kilometers per hour, we're going to explore how America ended up with this bizarre system and why it stubbornly refuses to change. And for those of you watching from outside the US, stick around. This might just explain why your American friends always look so puzzled when you bring up meters, liters, kilograms, or why 30 degrees means something completely different to us. Let's talk about another classic, measuring length and height. Americans would probably say, I'm 6 feet tall, but ask them how many centimeters that is and you'll get a blank stare. For reference, 6 feet is about 183 centimeters. Now here when it gets interesting, trying to figure out someone's height when they say, I'm 1.75 meters. Is that tall, short, or somewhere in between? It's like being on a dating app, thinking someone lists their height in centimeters. Suddenly, you find yourself solving a math problem, trying to figure out if they're an NBA player or a short king. Who knew swiping left or right could be so confusing? And it doesn't stop with height. Americans love measuring things in inches, TV screens, pizza sizes, or snowfall. But when it comes to anything international, meters take over. Just to put it into perspective, 1 inch is equal about 2.54 centimeters. Now, here's where things get really wild. 1 foot has 12 inches. Why 12? No one really knows. Meanwhile, the metric system is over here being all sensible using multiples of 10. A meter is 100 centimeters. No surprises, no drama. But in the Imperial system, it's never that simple. Instead of just saying 2 meters, you're suddenly dealing with 6 feet, 6 inches, or maybe 78 inches. And before you know it, you're scratching your head until it hurts trying to make sense of it all. It's like the founders of the Imperial system said, why make this thing easy when we can make it confusing, just for fun? Let's start with a classic example, the gallon. In the US, gallons are used for everything from filling up cars to buying milk. But here's where it gets confusing. 1 US gallon equals about 3.785 liters, almost 4 liters per gallon. To add another twist, UK uses a different gallon. Their gallon is about 4.546 liters, which is even bigger than the American version. So depending on where you are, a gallon might not mean what you think it does. Ever try to explain to someone why your car's gas tank takes 15 gallons instead of just saying 57 liters? It's like explaining why your sister using feet instead of meters. You can almost see their eyes roll as they try to understand why America just can't let go of these beloved gallons. And then there's the ultimate test, trying to compare gas prices while traveling. You stand there at the pump mentally converting liters to gallons, then dollars to euros, just to figure out if you're getting ripped off, all while your wallet gets lighter with every drop. Let's talk about another big one, miles versus kilometers, especially when it comes to speed limits. In the US, we measure speed in miles per hour, while most of the world uses kilometers per hour. So when you're cruising down the highway at 60 miles in America, you'd actually be going 100 kilometers in the other countries. For comparison, 1 mile is about 1.6 kilometers. So when you see a sign that says 100 miles to the next city, that's roughly 160 kilometers elsewhere. And if you're ever driving in the US suddenly start seeing signs at kilometers, you probably somehow ended up in Canada. Take the iconic Route 66, which stretches around 2,400 miles from Chicago to LA. It sounds like an epic journey, but if you put that into kilometers, it's a whooping 3,862 kilometers. Suddenly, feels like you travel half the globe and they just won American road trip. And of course, that's a classic 5K race. It's a 5 kilometer long, which is about 3.1 miles. But for some reason, saying you're running a 3.1 mile race just doesn't have the same ring to it, does it? Let's tackle another major difference, weight. In the US, we measure everything in pounds. When someone tells you they weigh 150 pounds, it's a perfectly normal number. But if you travel abroad and suddenly hear their weight as 68 kilograms, it feels like they're talking about something else entirely. For quick comparison, 1 kilogram is approximately 2.2 pounds. That means when you say you weigh 150 pounds, you're saying you weigh about 68 kilograms. But ask an American to describe their weight in kilograms and they'll probably panic. Kilograms? What am I, a scientist? It's not just about personal weight. Think about the gym. We're used to lifting weights in pounds, so when you switch to kilograms, suddenly that 45-pound barbell becomes 20 kilograms. It doesn't sound as impressive, does it? Or how about when you're at the steakhouse? You confidently order a 12-ounce steak because that's what you know, but imagine being asked for the same thing in grams. Wait, is that 340 grams? And at the grocery store, buying bananas suddenly becomes an adventure. Instead of asking for a pound of bananas, now you're trying to figure out if it's a half a kilo, or is it too much, or it's too little. Why is it something as simple as grocery shopping suddenly requiring this much brain power? Honestly, is it too much to ask for just one measurement system that doesn't make us question our life choices? Now let's not forget one of the most confusing comparisons of all, Fahrenheit versus Celsius. Americans freak out when they hear it's 30 degrees Celsius abroad, thinking we're about to freeze, when in reality, it's 86 Fahrenheit, perfect beach weather. But here's where it gets ridiculous. To convert Celsius to Fahrenheit, you have to multiply by 9/5 and then add 32. So 30 degrees Celsius becomes 30 times 9/5 plus 32 equals 86. It's like you're back in high school math class just to try to figure out what to wear for the day. Conversely, to go from Fahrenheit to Celsius, you subtract 32, multiply by 5/9, and suddenly it's 80 minus 32 times 5/9 equals 26.7 degrees Celsius. How is anyone supposed to do that in their head before their morning coffee? Let me know in the comment if you ever stood outside trying to figure out where you're supposed to be sweating or shivering. If you ever tried cooking with a recipe from another country, you probably faced the ultimate measurements nightmare. One calls for 250 grams of flour, and you're standing there with your measuring cup wondering if you're supposed to fill it halfway, 3/4, or just guess and hope for the best. For the record, it's about 2 cups, but who's really keeping track? Metric system is precise, giving you exact amounts, but Americans, we're out here with a pinch of this, a dash of that, a smidgen of whatever feels right. It's like we're cooking with the spirit of improvisation instead of actual measurements. By the way, this is not a stab at your cooking skills. Or after all, maybe it is. I mean, can anyone really tell me how many smidgens or dashes make up a cup? Despite our resistance, the metric system is secretly everywhere in US. Soft drinks, measured in liters. When was the last time you saw a gallon of Coke in the store? Athletes run 100-meter races, not 328-foot races. And let's not forget medicine. Ever noticed how your doctor measures your dosage in milliliters, not teaspoons, but then tells you to drink 8 ounces of water with it, because why not? Even car engines are rated in liters. You got 3.5-liter engine, not a 213 cubic inch one. But we still drive 60 miles per hour on the highway. It's like we're living a double life, Imperial by day, metric by night. We may resist, but the metric system is sneaking into our lives 1 liter of soda at a time. Let's face it, Americans love the tradition, even when it makes no sense. It's like using a typewriter instead of a laptop because that's just how we've always done it. The imperial system is ingrained in American culture. Construction, 2x4s measured in feet and inches, to sports. A football field is 100 yards long. And let's be real, when you ask why we stick with it, you're probably get an answer like, because this is America, and you can keep European measurements over there. Believe it or not, America once flirted with the idea of going metric. In the 1970s, the government tried to push the country towards adopting a metric system, even passing the Metric Conversion Act in 1975. They set up a whole commission to figure out how to make the switch and even started putting up highway signs in kilometers. But surprise, surprise, no one cared. The movement lost steam faster than New Year's resolutions, and by 1980s, the commission was quietly disbanded. It turns out, telling an entire country to change how they measure everything was about this populace telling people they couldn't have ice cream for breakfast. It's like asking everyone to suddenly start driving on the left side of the road. Good luck with that. And honestly, asking Americans to give up inches and feet was like asking them to stop saying y'all. It just wasn't going to happen. Let's be fair, there's a pros and cons to both systems. The metric system is simple, logical, and based on multiples of 10, which makes conversion a breeze. Number multiplying by 12 or dividing by 16 is the reason why the most of the world uses it. On the flip side, the imperial system feels more human-sized. A foot is about length of, well, your foot, and an inch is roughly the length of your thumb. There's something comforting about the measurements that feel connected to everyday life. Switching to metric will definitely simplify a lot of things, especially when it comes to international trade, travel, and everyday life. But for now, we'll keep measuring our body weight in pounds and temperature in Fahrenheit because, well, that's just the American way. So, whether you're measuring in inches or centimeters, pounds or kilograms, just remember, it's all part of the fun. After all, if we all agreed on everything, what would we have to argue about? Now, it's your turn. Are you team metric or team imperial? Let me know in the comments, and feel free to share your most confusing measurement moments. And hey, if you ever find yourself in the US, just remember, 1 mile equals 1.6 kilometers, 1 gallon equals 3.785 liters. You'll thank me later. See you in the next one, and please give us a thumbs up.